This is the episode where harmony stops being the goal. Not because harmony lacks value, but because premature peace preserves misalignment. What has not been integrated cannot be stabilized. What has not been tested cannot be trusted. Across ancient wisdom traditions, fire is never introduced as punishment. Fire is revelation. It exposes incompatibilities that could not coexist indefinitely anyway. It brings hidden fractures to the surface where they can no longer be negotiated away, cannot be ignored. This episode reframes conflict as necessary friction. Within the Gospel of Thomas, a non-canonical sayings collection attributed to Didymus Judas Thomas, preserved within early Syrian and later Coptic Christian communities, the Rabbi Yeshua, the Nazarene, a Hebrew teacher from Galilee, speaks words that directly contradict later portrayals of him as a purely pacifying figure. He says, "I have cast fire upon the world, and see, I am guarding it until it blazes." This is the Gospel of Thomas, saying 16. This saying also appears in parallel form within the Jewish Christian canonical tradition. In the Gospel of Matthew, transmitted through Catholic and later Protestant institutions, the Nazarene rabbi states, "I have come to bring not peace, but a sword." That's the Gospel of Matthew 10:34, Jewish Christian tradition. These sayings are not endorsements of violence. They are acknowledgments of inevitability. When truth enters a system built on compromise, division follows. Not because truth divides, but because misalignment cannot remain hidden in its presence. Fire does not create a fracture. Fire reveals the fracture. Within Second Temple Judaism, conflict was not automatically viewed as a moral failure. Dispute was understood as a process through which clarity emerged. What mattered was whether the conflict moved toward alignment or hardened into stubbornness. This distinction matters deeply here. Mistakes are forgivable. Ignorance is forgivable. Even harm, when followed by genuine reorientation, remains within the realm of repair. What is not forgivable within this framework is refusal to realign once misalignment has been revealed. This is where fire becomes ethical. The body recognizes this truth before the mind consents to it. Under stress, hormones shift. Adrenaline, cortisol, and noradrenaline flood the system. Fight, or freeze responses activate not to punish but to protect integrity. These reactions signal that something incompatible is present. An idea, a loyalty, a role, a belief that can no longer be metabolized. Modern physiology confirms what ancient teachers observed intuitively. Stress is not always pathology. It is often information. The endocrine system responds when boundaries are violated, when values conflict, when internal coherence is threatened. Long before language intervenes, the body declares, "This does not fit." The Gospel of Thomas sharpens this insight further in saying 47. A person cannot mount two horses or stretch two bows, and a servant cannot serve two masters. Otherwise, that servant will honor the one and offend the other. Gospel of Thomas, saying 47. This saying mirrors the canonical tradition as well. In the Gospel of Matthew, the same teaching appears. No one can serve two masters. Gospel of Matthew 6:24 from the Jewish Christian tradition. The issue here is not loyalty to authority figures. It is incompatibility of orientation. Divided allegiance fragments energy. The nervous system cannot fully regulate when pulled in opposing directions. Hormonal systems remain activated because resolution has been postponed indefinitely. Fire emerges when postponement ends. This is why the Nazarene rabbi also speaks of unforgivable states, not as eternal damnation, but as a persistent misalignment. In saying 44, the Gospel of Thomas, he states, "Whoever blasphemes against the Father will be forgiven, and whoever blasphemes against the Son will be forgiven. But whoever blasphemes against the Holy Spirit, the breath will not be forgiven." Gospel of Thomas, saying 44. Within Hebrew understanding, often translated as spirit means breath, wind, animating force. To violate Raj is to deny lived, experienced reality. It is to argue against direct experience. Forgiveness becomes impossible, not because it is withheld, but because reorientation is refused. A refusal to reorientate your intention. One cannot realign while insisting that nothing is wrong. This is where the metaphor of containers appears. New wine requires new vessels. This teaching appears explicitly in the canonical Gospel of Mark 2:22 and Matthew 9:17, preserved through Jewish Christian tradition and implicitly throughout Thomasine thought. Old containers, habits, identities, belief structures cannot hold transformed awareness. They crack under pressure. Fire exposes that cracking. The body knows when something is toxic, even when the mind negotiates exceptions. Hormonal imbalance, chronic stress, fatigue, irritability often signal loyalty to something already expired. Fire shows up not to destroy life, but to prevent slow poisoning. This episode reframes division not as failure, but as a diagnostic clarity. When fire enters a house, incompatible elements surface. Some roles burn away, some identities collapse, some alliances dissolve. What remains is not purity, but coherence. The Nazarene rabbi does not ask followers to avoid fire. He asks them to pass through it consciously. Integration under stress is the work. Alignment forged without pressure is fragile. Fire teaches discernment. What survives is what fits. What burns is what was never sustainable. Peace that avoids fire becomes stagnation. Peace that follows fire becomes stability. This episode does not glorify conflict, it names its function. Fire is not the destination, it is the process that clears the way for wholeness. When incompatible loyalties are released, the nervous system settles, hormones recalibrate, breath deepens, the body recognizes integrity again. Fire in the house is not catastrophe. It is the moment where truth can no longer be postponed. And once alignment is chosen, fire no longer needs to blaze. It has already done its work. The spiral continues, not toward comfort, but toward coherence forged under pressure, where what remains can finally rest without strain.